Pastor Ed here, back again with day 2, Wednesday, December the 7th, with our look at the Old Testament reading from the other week from the book of Habakkuk. Yesterday I read for you chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. Today I'm going to read chapter 2, verses 2 through 4, where God answers the prophet. And then the Lord answered me and said, "Write the vision, make it plain on the tablets so that a runner may read it. For there's still a vision for the appointed time. It speaks of the end and does not lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Look at the proud. Their spirit is not right in them, but the righteous live by their faith." Yesterday, I introduced the prophet Habakkuk, or at least the pronunciation of it, and the whole idea that he was a little bit on the impatient side as well. "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help?" we heard. "You will not listen. Cry violence. You will not save. Why do you make me see wrongdoing and look at trouble? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise." Well, scholars point out to us that Habakkuk's words are, as you might imagine, a cry for help. But the problem, of course, is that God doesn't seem to hear. All around him, Habakkuk sees destruction and violence on a vast scale that's seemingly being ignored by God. In other words, the prophet was complaining that God was allowing wickedness to triumph and to win the day. And naturally, Habakkuk was then losing patience. The law becomes slack, he argues. The New International Version, however, translates this as "the law became paralyzed." And the New English translation has "lacks power." Kind of makes sense when you think about how we often think of the law in our own day. Either of those translations, though, makes a little more sense than just to say slack. What he's saying, in effect, is that the law has become ineffective, and therefore justice never prevails, he says. Instead, it's perverted, he says. And of course, this is what we heard in that first part of today's reading from chapter 1. In chapter 2, the second part that I read at the outset here, God responds. God responds. God answers Habakkuk. And God says, "Write the vision, make it plain, for there's still a vision for the appointed time. It speaks of the end, does not lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it, says God. It will surely come. It will not delay." In other words, wait, says God. Be patient. But naturally, that's not exactly the answer that anyone, much less Habakkuk, ever wants to hear, is it? Like my dad, we're often impatient. We want God to act now. We want all of life's problems resolved now. We want things to be made right again immediately, and we'd prefer not to wait at all. But what is it that God's saying here? Even though deliverance is coming, says God, you will have to wait for it. You will have to be patient. When I sat down originally to write this sermon, which is now the basis of my devotions this week, I was amazed by how timely this reading from Habakkuk has proven to be for us. It was selected years ago for the first Sunday in Advent in the narrative lectionary, with obviously no advanced knowledge or expectation that Habakkuk's words would apply so perfectly to our own situation today. Again, listen to Habakkuk's words. "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you do not listen, or cry to you violence, and you will not save?" Talk about violence. You've probably read the same headlines that I've been reading in recent days, like one from the Washington Post. There have been more than 600 mass shootings so far in 2022. In fact, according to the Gun Violence Archive, which tracks them, there have already been, as of, and this is a week ago, 2 weeks ago almost, 612 mass shootings so far this year in the United States alone. We've averaged more than one mass shooting a day, which are defined as where 4 or more people, not including the shooter, are injured or killed. Moreover, not a single week in 2022 has passed without at least 4 mass shootings. And as that Washington article I saw the other week went on to point out, a shooter opened fire, and you may remember this, on a Tuesday at a Walmart in the Tidewater section of Virginia, killing 5 people. And that attack came only days after 5 people were killed, 18 more injured in a shooting at Club Q, an LGBTQ club in Colorado Springs, and that just about a week after a shooting at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville that had left 3 dead. Mass shootings have clearly been on the rise in recent years. In 2021, Almost 700 such incidents occurred, a jump from 610 in 2020 and 417 in 2019. Before that, however, incidents had not topped 400 annually since the Gun Violence Archive first started tracking them in 2014. And the toll is immense and tragic. Through November 22nd of this year, which is now a few weeks ago, mass shootings in this country had already killed 635 people and injured 2,540 more. Well, then I went to that gun archive again and saw that just during Thanksgiving week, there were 5 more mass shootings in Philadelphia, in Maryland, in Houston, 1 in Chicago, in which 5 were killed and 16 more wounded. And so what I'm trying to say is that Habakkuk's words seem eerily prescient, and appropriate. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help and you will not listen, or cry to you violence and you will not save? Why do you make me see wrongdoing and look at trouble? It would certainly seem that Habakkuk was actually writing in the 21st century, that is in our own time, not in the 7th century BCE, the time period in which he lived. And that's just one example of the violence and the wrongdoing that we are currently facing. Well, we're going to stop there and finish it off tomorrow as we look at Habakkuk, who saw the violence and destruction all around him and is crying out to God for help. And, what's the answer going to be? Well, we'll look at that tomorrow. Until then, take care. Bye.